Hello, hello. Welcome to Rise Up CX Talks. This is the podcast where we discuss ideas and strategies on how to transform experience into business growth. I am your host, Camila Ferreira, an international speaker, an award-winning CX leader, and most recently, an author of Long Live CX. This week, I'm directly from Lisbon in Portugal, where I'm launching the Portuguese version of the book. And I have the pleasure to welcome a friend from my time in SpotOn, Sasan Mahinpourian. So with no further ado, Sasan, please take the stage and tell the audience who you are and what do you do to transform experience into business growth.
Hi, Cami. Thanks for having me on your podcast. This is awesome. First of all, congratulations. This is really cool. As Camilla mentioned, I'm Sasan, and I am currently head of go-to-market operations at a company called Peppr. We are a startup in the food tech industry. We're trying to revolutionize the tech for restaurant industry, and I manage their go-to-market operations today, mostly customer experience, and I've been there for a little bit over a year now. Actually, June 3rd of last year was when I started. So it's been almost a year and a month.
Oh, wow. I can tell you, we had so much fun at SpotOn. I still remember our meetings and all of our brainstorm sessions. But today we are here to talk about from Fintech to Foodtech and how you will scale startups with CX at the core. Such a great topic. And as I was saying, I had so much fun and I learned so much from you in my time at SpotOn. So let's jump into the first question that I have here. In that transition, right, Fintech, Foodtech, how does your go-to-market approach shift across industry if it actually does?
That's an interesting question. So go-to-market strategy, of course, it's different depending on which industry you're in. You know, who you're going after, what kind of sales channels you have, and all that. But from a CX standpoint, I feel like a majority of the companies that I worked for, and majority of the companies that I've had exposure to, have very similar approaches in their CX. You have a team that provides support, a team that helps with onboarding. And it's so interesting, like industries change, but then the support structure, the journey, all of that basically remains the same across different industries. Whether you're in fintech or some other startup in a different industry. And almost universally, everyone experiences the same kind of hurdles, low activation rates sometimes, or churning accounts early on. Or when the tickets pile up, they start beefing up their support teams. How do we structure support? All the stuff that you and I went through at SpotOn many times.
So many times. But Sasan, going from SpotOn, going from Fintech to Foodtech, anything in particular that got your attention in the go-to-market strategy or how the teams are structured?
Yeah, definitely. So a lot, actually. So my approach currently with what we're building at Peppr, it's been a little bit different from how we did things at SpotOn and my previous experiences. It's very focused on giving the customers a solid experience right off the bat during the onboarding. And I think that especially for restaurants, small businesses, that's really important. That's where you can be a differentiator and stand out amongst all the competitors out there.
Oh my goodness, yes. That's why we had so much fun, because this is the right mindset, right? Some leaders, they think that CX happens at the support team, where it actually starts with sales, even before the onboarding, right? So taking care of those early moments of the merchant journey is so important. You and I, of course, we had the chance to work in the hospitality industry, and all of the clients came from a different experience.
Absolutely.
So the baseline is how the previous system used to work. We cannot just assume they're going to know how our system or SpotOn system works. So onboarding them and teaching them, and sometimes even say, hey, I know that in your previous system, it used to work this way, but here it's different. So taking the time and to care about customers and how they onboard to the new system is really, really important. I'm glad that you are taking this with you, not only to Peppr, but to your in your professional journey, because this is so important and differentiates very much how leaders think about CX.
100%. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so let's jump into the second one. You are so fast, as usual. What are the most common mistakes startups make when trying to scale? Oh, this is a good question.
I love that question. That's such a good question. Actually, you know what? This is something that I have firsthand experience with. So yeah, you got to back out a little bit before you even get to the mistake part. The mindset needs to change when it comes to customer experience. Right now, a lot of the startups, they think about, I want to build my product. I need to build my sales. I need to be able to get this product out of the door as quickly as possible. And nobody thinks about that customer experience, whether it's support or it's your customer success team, your account management, your typical implementation teams and all of that. And let's be honest, most companies, treat customer experience as an afterthought. It's the team you build once your support tickets pile up. It's the cost you try to reduce, and the department that everybody blames when you start churning accounts. It's been treated as a cost center. But something that you have to do as a startup founder or a leader in a startup, I think to me is you want to look at it as a function you want to invest in, and you need to, especially in a competitive spaces like fintech or foodtech or hospitality. Your biggest differentiator is your CX. So you gotta invest into your CX from very early on, and not wait until you have a lot of customers waiting to be onboarded, a lot of customers that are asking for support, a lot of customers churning out, and then you realize, oh my God, I'm behind. I need to start hiring for support. So to me, the number one mistake I think everybody makes, a lot of people make, not everybody, but a lot of startups make, is not investing in their CX from the very, very early on, and not having a strategy throughout the journey as they build a product and improve it and evolve it and go to market with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As I was hearing you, in my experience, one is I can see most startups, they are very much focused on acquiring new clients, which is normal, right? So you are just starting up, so you need to acquire clients, but they forget the power of the existing clients. Absolutely. That once you treat them well, once you offer a good experience, they can become an organic sales machine for you as well. And why? Because they can refer. However, if you neglect their experience, it will actually fire back to you. And why? Because instead of helping you grow, they are gonna kind of send the bad message about your experience. So completely agree with you. I wish all the leaders and new leaders that are starting businesses, I do understand that acquiring customers is really important, but there are different ways of acquiring them. And a good CX is definitely one of the highest return on investment that you can make to acquire more customers, because you won't have to have a bigger sales team because your clients will do the job for you.
No, you're absolutely right. There is a measurable ROI there. It's tangible. You can calculate it. It's right there. If you look at it from that mindset, I think you don't fall into the trap of, oh, we can always build support later, because that later is always too late, because then at that point you're churning customers, and when your customers feel supported, they stick around longer. You have you have customers that are happy, and if they're onboarded well, they actually use your product. So you get some adoption, and when they get timely help, they're more likely to expand their usage. So especially early on, when your product is in its infancy stage, you're going to evolve. You're going to keep adding to this product, and you want to make sure that your existing customers that you got early on are actually going to start, they will actually use all the new features you've invested in. And you have better retention, better activation, and you get referrals. It's not just they will stick around. It's not your revenue retention. You're also expanding your revenue, which is important.
Absolutely. And no matter how good is your product, the only thing I know is that it will fail at some point, period. No
100.
matter how good it is. So saying that we're going to have a problem is just a matter of timing. However, how you're going to deal with the problem that we have is what's going to set you apart.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? So we can see from small to big companies, problems happen. However, if you have well onboarded your client, if you have built trust throughout the journey, when the problem comes, there will be trust in between for you to gain some time to handle the problem.
Yep.
Big or small, doesn't matter. But if you leave this to the end, if you leave this just to the support team, so first of all, support team is limited in their resources. Once the problem happens, depending on the scope of this problem, not even if you have all the employees of your company in the support, helping the support team would be enough. But if you have gained the trust of your clients throughout the journey, it's a lot easier for you to deal with. So investing in CX from early stages is definitely worth it. And one of the biggest mistakes startups do, unfortunately. And one of the other things that you mentioned that it truly resonated to me is doing this in the later stages. Once you already have established maybe non-formal processes, because in the absence of a process, people come up with their ideas. Right? So again, I'm here on the phone or I have to solve something and there is no process. I'm not going to keep this hot potato with me. So let me see what I can do. And then you will start organically creating informal processes that stick. Once you realize that you need to put better processes in place, it's going to be late. And the cost of re-engineering all of these and basically changing a culture is going to be a lot higher.
Yeah, and early on, your reputation matters a lot. Your new company, you don't have the benefit of the having a brand presence like your competitors. You want to make a name for yourself. Those early experiences could lose you not just your existing customers, but also future customers, potential customers that would maybe consider you if you had a better a customer experience for your customer base, basically.
Yeah, and not to mention the employees, right, Sasan? Because we talk a lot about customers, but at the end of the day, employees are internal customers as well, and not giving them, first of all, a right direction and not creating this culture of experience at the end of the day. Because we say customer experience, but a customer is every single person that you interact with, regardless if it's an external or internal, or if from your department, from a different department. If you do not have that culture in place, it's going to be a lot harder for you to kind of download your strategy. It's going to be harder for you to have metrics and KPIs from the different departments that connect to each other. And changing a culture, in my professional experience, is one of the most challenging things that a leader can face.
Absolutely.
Because
you can attract better talent too. That's another thing too. People want to work for companies that have good culture. You're definitely right. Hit it on the nail.
And once they feel worth it, they will hunt you rather than you hunting them.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
yeah.
Great question. I said it's a very great question. Okay, next one here. In your view, what does it really take to build a solid customer experience foundation? Ooh, another good question. Great questions today.
Good question too. Yeah. So it's interesting. This has been something that I've been thinking about for years, and it took me a while to finally understand it. When you're, especially for a startup, doesn't matter what industry, you obsess over your product. You obsess over your sales, acquire new customers and all of that. And of course, customer experience is an afterthought and all of those things that we talked about already. But if you start thinking about your customer experience as a product, just like a product, pretend that aside from your core product, you also have your customer experience as a product, then things start changing quite a bit. And what does that actually mean? It means you build your customer experience with intention. You build it just like you would your core platform. It means investing in people, folks who are problem solvers, good communicators, And it means building infrastructure, like better CRMs, better processes, onboarding flows, ticketing systems, playbooks, data tracking. And eventually, you don't just throw a few reps or a few people, you don't throw people at your problems at that point. You've intentionally thought about and strategized about how to build your customer experience, and you are offering it as a product. You look at it as a product, and you will actually think about how you're going to position this to attract new customers and to satisfy your existing ones.
Wow, this is a masterclass. Oh my goodness, I love this approach. I have never thought this way, but it makes total sense. As I was listening here to you, I think one of the most valuable things people neglect is the voice of the customer.
Absolutely.
And in one of my previous professional experiences in such a big company, very much product driven, revolutionized the market, but they were so into the product and not into the experience that they sometimes had to had with competitors that were actually investing a lot less, but listening to the customers. Right.
You can even see that in how much they spend. You can see their R&D teams probably sucking so much of their cash. And then you look at their customer experience teams or teams that work with customers, and there's barely anything invested into those teams.
Absolutely. Yes. And again, you can just kind of pick up the phone and talk to a few customers. Coming back to the previous conversation that we are having, the previous question, right? So if you build trust from the onboarding, from the sales, throughout the merchant journey, then once you establish a trustworthy relationship, you can totally go ahead and pick up the phone and say, hey, how is the experience? What kind of a feedback that you have for me? How can I make your life easier and better? How can I help you to be more successful? And this is gold. And most of the time, unfortunately, undervalued. And why? Departments work in silos. Each of them looked at their metrics and KPIs and trying to solve for themselves rather than solving for the company and solving for the customer. And you have kind of teams like product is strategizing to launch a new feature, but there is something that is glitching and is not working, that is driving a lot of frustration, and it's not being addressed. So yeah, I love this approach, Sasan. Good. I hope that it's resonating to the audience because this has been a masterclass. Good. Let's shift gears a little bit here. Let's talk about leadership. You have such an amazing journey coming to the US and building your leadership. So tell us a little bit about how this journey as an immigrant, kind of coming to the US as an immigrant and building your professional life here, has shaped your leadership.
Let's see. I haven't really thought about that, honestly. I think maybe not necessarily leadership, but more career. I think immigrating forces you to adapt. I think that's something that you learn. I immigrated here. I was young. I was about 17 years old when it was 15 years ago, and you don't just learn, a lot of people say, oh, you don't know the language, it's going to be really hard. You have to learn how to speak English or how to speak whatever, depending on which country you're immigrating to. To me, it's learning the language is just the first problem. The biggest one is understanding the culture and actually adapting to that environment. And how does that translate over to career? Well, it's interesting because when you're at any company, startup or a large company, things change and you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to evolve with those changes. And I think one of the most important lessons I learned is that you have to be okay with those changes and you have to quickly adapt to it. Otherwise, you'll become obsolete. If you start in the beginning of a startup, when they literally seed round, basically, seed stage, and things change. By the time, if you look at the first year compared to the 5th year or the 10th year, things change quite a bit. And if you don't adapt, if you don't evolve with that, with that company, then you basically are obsolete. At some point, you probably don't belong there anymore. And I think for me, that was really important. Something that I think I learned by immigrating.
Yeah, there are things that are not taught in classrooms, right? In my journey as an immigrant, I used to say that as an immigrant, you have to read what is not written.
Yeah.
You have to listen what is not said. And you have to understand what is not expressed, which at the end of the day is understanding the culture. Because in your home country, you know those things. You look at someone and you can kind of map that person. But in a different culture, the same signals you get in your home country can have a completely different meaning. Right? And that's why I asked about leadership, because throughout my journey of changing to so many countries, once I learned this, that I need to listen, read, and understand what's not necessarily on paper, it helped me to be a more inclusive leader.
And empathetic.
Empathetic leader, because I cannot just assume. When you are in your home country, you're in your comfort zone. And you assume so many things. Not that you assume the right things, by the way. And that's why I say that immigrating should be part of your professional development, because you learn so many things that your home country would never, ever offer you.
Definitely.
And being more empathetic is definitely one of them. Not to mention resilience, because you have to, as you correctly said, you have to deal with so many things. Simple things like opening a bank account, getting your ID. And if you just assume that it will be the same, the process will look like in your home country, the only thing I can say is that you were wrong.
Yeah. And
right.
It's also scrappiness, as is something, as you were talking about this, something that I realized. We immigrated here, my family and I, when it was right around the recession, 2008 recession. So really hard to find jobs, and just really hard to get by. Very, very difficult. There were no jobs. It took my dad 5 years to find a job, like literally. But during those years, what we learned was be scrappy and figure out, different ways to do things a little more creatively. You go to a garage sale, you buy things and you sell it on eBay, and all those little things, I think it helps you become a little bit more creative, especially at work. Now, if we don't have a system or if we don't have the resources we used to have, it's okay. I will pull up a spreadsheet and I can run the whole company in there. It's all right. We can get by with very little. And I think that's something that when you have everything, all the resources, it's hard for you to think about, okay, what would I do if I didn't have any of those things? And when you immigrate, that literally happens to you. And to a lot of people, it happens. And that's something that we went through. And I feel like now I go through it in startups too. Moving from one startup to another, you don't have all the resources at first. You have to build things, and you have to be a little bit scrappy and creative and be quick to run things.
Yeah, it reminded me one of our meetings at SpotOn, us in a kind of a whiteboard and us kind of drawing the process for finding.
A picture of you literally on the table, just writing on this whiteboard. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's this, right? So I remember in one of the companies that I worked for, again, I was, we have here Mohammed just agreeing with us. So one of
I miss
one
you,
of our friends. Yes, we miss you very much. But when I was working at Uber, I was leading Latin America. In Latin America has a kind of the smaller piece of the pie in the global operations. So my requests were not always prioritized, and I understand why, because it was very unique to Latin America. It was really hard for me to compete with requests coming from bigger regions, and we had to be creative. I was like, the fact that we did not have this solution shouldn't stop us from moving forward, right? And I think that as an immigrant, you learn these on the go, because you won't have the resources from your home country. The process will be different for sure, not to mention the language, the culture. There are so many things that you have to deal with at the same time that organically pushes you to be more creative.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, last one on leadership. Speaking of CX teams, right? As you correctly said, we still have some leaders playing with the wrong mindset that CX is still a cost center. How do you lead these people? How do you motivate them? How do you how do you filter this to not impact them directly?
Oh, that's a hard one. It's interesting. So I start from, so a lot of people have a hard time, especially when they move from, if you work for a company that's mature enough, it's been around for decades, and then you go to a startup, and people tend to, kind of mistake the experience at a bigger company. They look at that and I'm like, oh, they're going to be a great fit for a startup because they've already seen what good looks like. The problem is, seeing what good looks like is different from building to the moment that things are actually good. And I think to kind of like get them in the mindset of, okay, we don't have the resources, we're starting from scratch, we're building everything from ground up. I usually put everything into 4 stages. One is, let's do things, phase 1, quick and dirty, survival mode. It's the beginning, we'll do whatever it takes. Don't worry about, being overwhelmed or not really, not having the research to provide the experience that you really want. It's okay. Pull up a spreadsheet. We'll run the company there. It's all good. We'll use Slack threads, manual processes. It's no problem. And it's just temporarily. Then while that happens, while your firefighters are fighting the fires, you want to spend time on building the strategy for the next phase of your CX, which is what I call like the beta phase. And for that beta phase, you want to introduce some systems, you want to build some CRMs, you want to get away from those manual processes a little bit. You want to get out of that spreadsheet and use, I don't know, Salesforce or HubSpot or whatever you like. And all of that is happening. You want to think about the next phase, which is your GA. If this all goes back to how you're treating CX as a product. You go through an MVP, then you have like alpha beta phase, then you have general availability, and then finally you have your continuous improvements. You do bi-weekly or sprints, or you do quarterly updates to all your processes. To answer your question, I feel like you just have to ease people into this, and you can't immediately give them what the ultimate vision is. You have to just look at where you are now, crawl, walk, run, and I think that makes it a little bit easier for those folks to come around.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, 2 masterclasses in just 1 episode. It's amazing. Yeah, definitely. I really like this approach, and this is one of the benefits of working for startups, right? Because in my professional life, I have had a chance to work for gigantic companies as well as startups, and one of the reasons why I decided to go to startups is because I have the freedom to operate. So if you are starting a team, or if you are still dealing with a few leaders that do not fully understand the value of CX, grab a few folks, as you said, let's MVP. Let's kind of try things. They won't be paying attention because they think it's a cost center. Right. But once you prove the return, and leaders, please use financial metrics to prove your return. Once you start proving your return, the doors will open. And to me, the most important thing is to have this culture, this experience-driven mindset or experience-driven leadership, where you will start with your team. It starts from within. You cannot give what you don't have. How can you ask someone to be experience-driven if the experience you are offering to this person is suboptimal?
Well said.
Right? There's absolutely no way. So yes, for everybody who's watching, we have here the masterclass on how to approach CX from MVP to the alpha, beta, and GA, and then process improvement. Sasan Mahinpourian. Look at this. Look at me saying this, pronouncing this surname, Sasan. Come on.
I'm impressed. You said it right for the first time too. It was impressive.
You won't believe me, but it's been more than 30 minutes talking. Even though it's been two masterclasses, as I said. Yeah, time flies. But my friend, what is the final remarks? What is the message that you want to leave with the audience today?
Good question. Let's see. If there's one thing that I like your listeners to take away, it's that don't wait too long until things break to start thinking about customer experience. Treat it like a product from day one. Assign resources, build a roadmap, measure your success the same way you would anything else that drives revenue. CX isn't just support, it's a strategy. And if you invest in it early, it will pay off in ways that your product alone never could.
Absolutely. And if people want to connect with you, what is the best way to find you? Because I'm pretty sure they want to learn more about your approach to CX.
LinkedIn. LinkedIn would be the best way. And I'm always happy to answer any DMs, happy to have any conversations anybody would want to have.
Amazing. Sasan, I can't thank you enough. It was more than a pleasure to host you here, to see you again. So please, let's not wait until the next episode. Right. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your knowledge, sharing your ideas with the audience, and being a guest in this Rise Up CX Talks. It was a pleasure having you here.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me. Good to see you.
Thanks. Yes. See you in the next episode. Bye.
See ya.